Hello everyone and welcome back to our reading of The Swiss Family Robinson. Today's chapter, Our First Harvest. Let's get started. Late in the evening we heard the sounds of trampling hoofs, and presently Jack appeared, thundering along upon his two-legged steed, followed in the distance by Fritz and Franz. These latter carried upon their cruppers game bags, the contents of which were speedily displayed. 4 birds, a kangaroo, 20 muskrats, a monkey, 2 hares, and half a dozen beaver rats were laid before me. The boys seemed almost wild with excitement at the success of their expedition, and presently Jack exclaimed, "Oh, Fowler, you can't think what grand fun hunting on an ostrich is. We flew along like the wind. Sometimes I could scarcely breathe. We were going at such a rate and was obliged to shut my eyes because of the terrific rush of air. Really, Fowler, you must make me a mask with glass eyes to ride with, or I shall be blinded one of these fine days." "Indeed," replied I must do no such thing." "Why not?" asked he, with a look of amazement upon his face. "For 2 reasons. Firstly, because I do not consider that I must do anything that you demand, and secondly, because I think that you are very capable of doing it yourself. However, I must congratulate you upon your abundant supply of game. You must have indeed worked hard. Yet I wish that you would let me know when you intend starting on such a long expedition as this. You forget that though you yourselves know that you are quite safe, and that all is going on well, yet that we at home are quite in a constant state of anxiety. Now off with you, and luck to your animals, and then you may find supper ready." Presently the boys returned, and we prepared for a most appetizing meal, which the mother set before us. They had set their traps near woodlands, and had there captured the muskrats, attracting them with small carrots, while with other traps baited with fish and earthworms, they had caught several beaver rats and a duck-billed platypus. Hunting and fishing had occupied the rest of the day, and it was with immense pride that Jack displayed the kangaroo which he had run down with his swift courser. We resolved to be up betimes the following morning, that we might attend to the preparation of the booty, and as I now noticed that the boys were all becoming extremely drowsy, I closed the day with evening devotions. The number of creatures we killed rendered the removal of their skins a matter of no little time and trouble. It was not an agreeable task at any time, and when I saw the array of animals the boys had brought me to flay, I determined to construct a machine which would considerably lessen the labor. Among the ship's stores in the surgeon's chest, I discovered a large syringe. This, with a few alterations, would serve my purpose admirably. Within the tube, I first fitted a couple of valves, and then, perforating the stopper, I had in my possession a powerful air pump. The boys stared at me in blank amazement when, armed with this instrument, I took up the kangaroo and declared myself ready to commence operations. "Skin a kangaroo with a squirt?" said they, and a roar of laughter followed the remark. I made no reply to the jests which followed, but silently hung the kangaroo by his hind legs to the branch of a tree. I then made a small incision in the skin, and inserting the mouth of the syringe, forced air with all my might between the skin and the body of the animal. By degrees, the hide of the kangaroo distended, altering the shape of the creature entirely. Still, I worked on, forcing yet more air until it had become a mere shapeless mass, and I soon found that the skin was almost entirely separated from the carcass. A bold cut down the belly and a few touches here and there, where the ligatures still bound the hide of the body, and the animal was flayed. What a splendid plan! Cried the boys. But why should it do it? For a most simple and natural reason, I replied. Do you not know that the skin of an animal is attached to its flesh merely by slender and delicate fibers, and that between these exist thousands of little bladders of air chambers? By forcing air into these bladders, the fibers are stretched, and at length, elastic as they are, cracked. The skin has now nothing to unite it to the body, and consequently may be drawn off with perfect ease. The remaining animals were subjected to the same treatment. To my great joy, in a couple of days the skins were all off and being prepared for use. I now summoned the boys to assist me in procuring blocks of wood for my crushing machine, and the following day we set forth with saws, ropes, axes, and other tools. We soon reached the tree I selected for my purpose, and I began by sending Fritz and Jack up into the tree with axes to cut off the larger of the high branches so that, when the tree fell, it might not injure its neighbors. Then they descended, and Fritz and I attacked the stem. As the easiest and most speedy method, we used a saw, such as one as is employed by sawers in a saw pit, and Fritz taking one end and I the other, the tree was soon cut half through. We then adjusted ropes that we might guide its fall, and again began to cut. It was laborious work, but when I considered that the cut was sufficiently deep, we took the ropes and pulled with our united strength. The trunk cracked, swayed, tottered, and fell with a crash. The boughs were speedily lopped off, and the trunk sawed into blocks 4 feet long. To cut down and divide this tree had taken us a couple of days, and on the third we carted home 4 large and 2 small blocks, and with the vertebra joints of the rail, I, in a very short time, completed my machine. While engaged on this undertaking, I had paid little attention to our fields of grain, and accordingly great was my surprise when one evening the fowls returned, showing most evident indifference to their evening meal, and with their crops full. It suddenly struck me that these birds had come from the direction of our cornfield. I hurried off to see what damage they had done, and then found to my great joy that the grain was perfectly ripe. The amount of work before us startled my wife. This unexpected harvest, which added reaping and threshing to the fishing, salting, and pickling already on hand, quite troubled her. Only think, she said, of my beloved potatoes and manioc roots. What is to become of them? I should like to know. Is it time to take them up and how to manage it with all this press of work I can't see. Don't be downhearted, Rife, said I. There is no immediate hurry about the manioc, and digging potatoes in this fine light soil is easy work compared to what it is in Switzerland. While as to planting more, that will not be necessary. If we leave the younger plants in the ground, the harvest we must conduct after the Italian fashion, which, although anything but economical, won't save time and trouble, and as we are to have 2 crops in the year, we need not be too particular. Without further delay, I commenced leveling a large space of firm, clayey ground to act as a threshing floor. It was round sprinkled with water, rolled, beaten, and stamped. As the sun dried the moisture, it was watered anew, and the treatment continued until it became as flat, hard, and smooth as threshing floor needs to be. Our largest wicker basket was then slung between Storm and Grumble. We armed ourselves with reaping hooks and went forth to gather in the wheat in the simplest and most expeditious manner imaginable. I told my reapers not to concern themselves about the length of the straw, but to grasp the wheat where it was convenient to them without stooping. Each was to wind a stalk around his own handful and throw it into the basket. In this way, great labor was saved. The plan pleased the boys immensely. In a short time, the basket had been filled many times. The field displayed a quantity of tall, headless stubble which perfectly horrified the mother. So extravagant and untidy did she consider our work. "This is dreadful," cried she. "You have left numbers of ears growing on short stalks, and look at that splendid straw completely wasted. I don't approve of your Italian fashion at all." It is not a bad plan, I can assure you, wife, and the Italians do not waste the straw by not cutting it with the grain. Having more arable than pasture land, they use this high stubble for their cattle, letting them feed in it, and eat what grain is left. Afterward, allowing the grass to grow up among it, they mow all together for winter fodder, and now for threshing also in Italian fashion. We shall find that it spares our arms and backs as much in that as in reaping. The little sheaves were laid in a large circle on the floor. The boys mounted Storm, Grumble, Lightfoot, and Hurricane, starting off at a brisk trot, with many a merry jest. And round they went, trampling and stamping out the grain, while dust and chaff flew in clouds about them. From time to time the animals took mouthfuls of the tempting food they were beating out. We thought they well deserved it, and called to mind the command given to the Jews, "Thou shalt not muzzle the ox that treadeth out the corn." After threshing, we proceeded to winnowing by simply throwing the threshed corn with shovels high in the air. When the land or sea breeze blew strong, the chaff and refuse was carried away by the wind and the grain fell to the ground. During these operations, our poultry paid the threshing floor many visits, testifying a lively interest in the success of our labors, and gobbling up the grain at such a rate that my wife was obliged to keep them at a reasonable distance. But I would not have them altogether stinted in the midst of our plenty. I said, Let them enjoy themselves. What we lose in grain, we gain in flesh. I anticipate delicious chicken pie, roast goose, and boiled turkey. When our harvest stores were housed, we found that we had reaped 60, 80, even 100-fold what had been sown. Our garner was truly filled with all manner of store. Expecting a second harvest, we were constrained to prepare the field for sowing again, and immediately, therefore, commenced mowing down the stubble. While engaged in this, flocks of crowns and partridges came to glean among the scattered ears. We did not secure any great number, but resolved to be prepared for them next season, by spreading nets to catch them in large numbers. My wife was satisfied when she saw the straw carried home and stacked. Our crop of maize, which of course had not been threshed like the other grain, afforded soft leaves which were used for stuffing mattresses, while the stalks, when burnt, left ashes so rich in alkali as to be especially useful. I changed the crops sown on the ground to rye, barley, and oats, and hoped they would ripen before the rainy season. And that would be all for today. I'll see you all next time. See ya!